Smash the like button and subscribe right now. What has the COVID-19 virus made you realize? How much food I actually waste on a regular basis. I always thought we did pretty good about not buying too many groceries or making too much, ordering too much, etc. How wrong I was. I set a goal for our household that we would use up all of our leftovers before making new stuff. It's forced me to be creative and experiment in the kitchen. Really shows you how long your pantry, fridge can actually last you. Yes, this is mine. I've been able to get creative and make leftovers feel like different meals. I've used the gross ends of bread loaves to make breadcrumbs. I made tomato sauce from tomato paste I would have normally thrown away. I've started regrowing green onions and celery from the old roots I would have normally discarded. Everything is getting repurposed. This whole thing has been really enlightening. We wasted so much before. How much you touch your face and how often you touch public surfaces. I can't stop thinking about this. I went to the gas station, grabbed the gas nozzle and thought how many infected people used this pump. Then I had to press the buttons on the gas pump, lol. For real, never really thought much about touching the pump until now. When things are bustling, how many people touch a pump a day? 100? It's extremely likely at least one of those people are sick. How much infection does our immune system fight every day? I get sick once every few years without precaution, although I do wash my hands a decent amount. That I took so many things for granted, like going to restaurants and just being able to go to a supermarket without worrying about what they may or may not have. Grocery stores not having certain things threw me off. 2. All of the cheap store brand ice cream is gone. There was a few of the less popular flavors of the Breers, 2x the price, and whatnot, but nothing I liked. Also breadcrumbs were gone. I guess I can just make my own. But damn it, I was gonna make meatballs. Anyways, I know they will restock, and I can always find workarounds, but it's still a very weird feeling, seeing all of those empty shelves. For me, the most depressing item was eggs, because there was nothing more sad than seeing an empty shelf where all the eggs should have been and the only ones left were all cracked and broken. How many jobs, meetings really can be done remotely? I'm wondering how this revelation will affect corporate real estate. If companies will continue the WFH option when things clear up and start to downsize the amount of office space they rent. In my country, financial institutions are strongly leveraging on remote working, as it allows to have smaller buildings, so less expensive. And they are doing for several years. For employees, it allows to not run like crazy to drop the kids at school and reach workplace in time. Less traffic jam, less pollution, less stress, higher P&L for the company and shareholders. It's a win-win situation. As a business owner, I can personally tell you, yes, absolutely, we will continue to support work from home. Necessity is the mother of invention, and we moved to WFH because we had to. Luckily, our team and our technology made the move fairly seamless, but it has proven the theory works. The reality was, because expansion, we were days away from signing a lease for a second location. We cancelled that lease offer, and our thinking at the executive level now is, why bother? I really think the WeWorks of the world are in serious trouble. Being on quarantine is difficult as frick, living out of your car. How did you end up there? Making crappy choices and not really communicating when I needed help. DM me your PayPal. I didn't realize how much my work defined who I am. I'm a barber, and after a week and a half of not doing it, I feel very incomplete. As cheesy as it may sound, it's my art form and it gives me a lot of meaning. I'm very hopeful, though, that I'll make it through this and be able to do it again. I'm with you. I'm a dentist, and it's weird to be healthcare, but deemed non-essential, but also thankful that we got shut down during this time since we're at high risk due to aerosols. I miss my patients, and my work, and this whole thing has made me realize that I have no hobbies except for working. I just got an email from my dentist saying they are closed except emergencies. That just made me think how bad it would be to be a dentist right now. Let me just put my hands on 20 people's mouths today. Because of the lockdown, I found that people think my preferred way of living is hell. Same here. I literally go to work 5 days a week, where I am in relative isolation anyway, come home and just play games, watch movies and TV shows, browse the internet, etc. Go to sleep, and repeat. On my days off I just do the same thing, albeit with going to work element removed. You just described my life. I also live alone, so the only thing that changed is not driving to work and back. Granted, I kinda hate this stagnant income, but pretty much this. Having the option to do something and not doing it sucks far less than not having that option at all. I'm the exact opposite. Less guilt and less negative effect on my self-esteem. I've been feeling pretty good lately, so on the actual coronavirus part, which is probably not a good sign. Totally agree. I kind of love that no one is doing anything. Means I'm not missing out by doing my favorite thing, staying home. Very true. I wonder why that is. I was not washing my hands enough. My skin has never been so dry. You've been doing it wrong. You wash your hands with sulfuric acid. Can't have dirty or dry hands if you don't have hands. Grocery store by me is all out of sulfuric acid. Damn hoarders. Our system isn't prepared for a big outbreak of some kind of sickness. A large portion of this country lives paycheck to paycheck. I've always seen the stats, but never fully realized the effect of that until now. Even those who appear to make a lot of money still live paycheck to paycheck. Their costs go up with their income. Personal finance isn't a popular subject because it's synonymous with personal accountability. The amount of "how am I going to pay rent this month?" type of comments has been shocking to me. I had no idea how many people were living on such tight margins they have literally no savings at all. It's not shocking to me at all. I know so many people who work their asses off, but because their hourly wages are so low, for example $10, they just don't earn enough. Their bare bone expenses take at least 100% of their income. They can't find cheaper rent, for example. There are no more ways to cut back. For them, even a single missed shift can be detrimental to their finances. Just how privileged I am. Don't get me wrong. I have plenty that keeps me up at night. But compared to the trouble a lot of people are in, my worries are nothing. This country is full of people having to choose between risking their family's health versus risking eviction. Folks with parents in nursing homes who they can't visit. People with chronic health conditions who are terrified of a flare-up while the hospitals are full. Hospital workers who are living in their garages because there are PPE shortages at work and they're afraid of infecting their families. I can't imagine how much stress a lot of my neighbors are under right now. My neighbor seemed on the verge of mental collapse yesterday, all from homeschooling his kids. And he lives in a standalone house in a nice neighborhood. I can't imagine caring for kids 24/7 with no one to pass them off to for a couple hours. It would be suffocating, especially in a small apartment, or living alone. Facing this by yourself would just be awful. Living alone during this isn't awful. I have control over what comes in my home and what doesn't. I can protect myself a lot easier than with another person. My food lasts twice as long than if I had a partner. And, on top of that, I get to entertain my neighbors with music and singing. No kids to fret over. Endless podcasts and YouTube videos to entertain me. Lots of spare time to practice baking, playing music, reading, etc. Being alone isn't as scary as it sounds. That I was working too hard. Because of all the suffering, I'm actually kind of ashamed to admit this has been great for my mental health. Honestly, me too. I was so burnt out and struggling through every single day. I'm laid off, which is a problem in itself, but being away from work has helped me reconnect with myself. Now we will count to 12. And we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth. Let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second. And not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines. We would all be together. In a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. And the man gathering salt would not look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars. Wars with gas, wars with fire. victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our leaves moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Pablo Neruda, 1973. Dear Diary. Today I read a beautiful poem from Pablo Neruda. It was posted by Shampoo and Dong. It was beautiful. How much we take for granted that everything just works. That things like a global supply chain just work. That an average gel like me can, in the dead of winter, reliably expect to see oranges in the produce aisle. How much we now rely on others as a society. Globally, we rely on manufacturing from around the world. Food grown around the world. They rely on our purchasing things. How incredibly connected we can be with modern ships and airplanes and the internet. And how we didn't realize how fragile that was, or how intricately everything connected. When this all started I didn't care about toilet paper or food for myself. I only cared about one thing. Was I going to be able to feed my cats? They are broken and spoiled. They have special dietary needs. Would I be able to get a reliable source of D venison and green pea? Or hydrolyzed proteins? Or chicken I can boil for my dude who has a sensitive tummy and no teeth? Would the pet stores have enough stock of wet food that he could tolerate? And it humbled and awed me to see an orderly line in front of the vet's office of people maintaining social distance. Isn't it funny? We said to each other, what we take for granted? I never thought, one guy hollered, that I would ever be worried about finding food for my dog. Well said. When all of this is over, whenever that may be, I think I'll have a newfound appreciation for the seemingly mundane, little things in everyday life, and in general be incredibly grateful for this life, assuming that I don't die by then of course. Full stop. Be it going out to the local department store to buy groceries, or taking the public transport to and from work, or sitting and sharing lunch with colleagues in the office cafeteria, all of these will be seen in a new light. And so will be all those people who keep all these things up and running. I remember the last day I went to my workplace before my city and country eventually went into lockdown. By then almost the entire office was already working from home. I had dropped by for a bit to pick something up for work, and seeing all the empty desks of my colleagues made me tear up. It's an emotion I can't quite place a finger on. To say that I was missing them wouldn't be completely true, because, thanks to technology, we were in touch every day through IMs and video calls. I guess the best way to describe it would be to say that it was something akin to nostalgia, the realization that what was once normal has become disrupted and there's no saying when we'd get it back, and that disruption is accompanied by a constant anxiety, a fear of the unknown and what lies ahead. Granted, our pre-corona leaves weren't all roses and unicorns. There were battles to fight then too. The same bay where I stood and got teary-eyed by looking at the empty desks was also where me and my team had to deal with a lot of shit and stress. It's the place we complained about coming to every morning when we'd rather be snuggling in bed, especially on Mondays. Some of these issues were trivial, some weren't. But all of that doesn't compare to the constant fear that we live with in the back of our minds now. Fear of stepping out and getting infected. Fear of losing a loved one to the disease. Fear of what could possibly come after this, of the enormous impact on the economy and its consequences. Fear of that little, panicky voice in your head which sometimes asks, what if this present reality is the new norm and we forever lose that which we once considered normal, which we then immediately try to stifle by telling ourselves that nope, one day we'll certainly go back to what we had before this started. Maybe this whole ordeal is going to turn out to be a hands-on course in existentialism.